Hey guys, and welcome to our very first panel discussion. Thank you so much for coming. I'm super excited about it. I'm your host, Pumulo Ngoma, and I just want everyone to introduce themselves. So we'll start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Consulate. I'm here with this Black Panther discussion and I'm excited.
Hi, I'm Carol, and I'm here.
Hi, my name is Don. They've asked me not to say my Twitter handle. It's really cool though. But I'm here for the discussion. I'm really excited for this.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm also here for the discussion and I'm excited.
Hi, I'm Kucho and I'm really excited to share thoughts with everyone on the movie Black Panther.
Yay! Yes! Yay! So exciting. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about how you felt about the movie. Did you enjoy it? Did you not like it? What was the initial kind of reaction?
Finally, representation
Yes.
in a positive light. And, obviously there's some issues here and there that we'll probably dive into. But, for one, the whole idea of everyone is everyone in the African continent and the diaspora, they're just very excited to actually have a movie that was based on an African, a black person in a positive way. Because a lot of the times in media, we usually portrayed as something negative. Either you're a baby mama, you're a thug, you're this, you're that, you're the starving kid in Africa. But for once, there was something that was very enriching and very.
I feel like it's also different when you speak about representation. I feel like it's different in that it's not saying blackness is okay, it's saying blackness is great, blackness is amazing, and I feel like they chose all these little things about being black that even we as black people don't always celebrate, like black accents, for example, African speaking English with an African accent.
But did you feel like this movie was more for Africans or for African Americans?
So to segregate that to a particular ethnicity, I don't think it's correct. I think it's a movie that every single person should watch, and it also gives us that feel of let's start valuing diversity.
I agree with that. But at the same time also, I think Black Panther as a movie was specifically targeted towards black people, and this is evidence because the first black superheroes we had were was that guy Hancock, and he was a constant drunk.
Oh my god.
And he was literally, as a black person, you understand that even the villains that are black have a very legitimate cause for doing it. Killmonger wasn't just trying to take over the world, but he was trying, first of all, to get reparations for other black people, and secondly, just so that black people don't have to suffer like that anymore. When you're black, when you come up, you don't come up alone, you come up with the whole family. So that's what I think makes it specifically a black movie, and apologetically so.
I think it celebrates the diasporic nature of blackness, and I think generally African Americans are sort of seen as not African as the other types of black people, but I think it speaks back to that in that Killmonger, his father is from Africa, and he grows up in the States, and he goes to Africa to sort of reclaim his African identity. And I think with that narrative, with his backstory, it also gives African Americans the opportunity to reclaim their Africanness.
One of the things that I felt like I had a problem with was it was a very almost pre-colonial imagining of Africa. Like it was very tribalistic. African Americans really like the tribal aspect of Africa. They like the
romanticizing.
Very romanticized pre-colonial Africa, and so I felt like that Wakanda played into that aspect a lot more than how we are right now as legitimate Africans. Do you know what I mean? Like are African Americans interested in Africans as we are now, or are they more interested in pre-colonial Africa?
But the thing is, Wakanda is an imagined pre-colonial state.
Yeah.
It's I think it's trying to imagine what an African country that was never colonized would look like. And I think also it's preserves ancient African cultures, but is also in a futurist. There's also a futurist. It's also Wakanda is a futuristic society in which the Africans have the most advanced technologies.
Referring to what Don said about how the movie is for black people unapologetically so. I don't really think it's for black people unapologetically so. I feel like it's still a very palatable version of blackness, one that white people can consume, you know, which is seen in things like their choice to go to the UN and not to the AU. I'm like that's very that was a very interesting conclusion, and it's done in such a way that a white person can feel like, oh, this is really nice. These are nice black people, you know. It's not really for black people, you know. And then the other thing, why I also agree with Pumulo's point about it's meant to be a state that wasn't affected by colonism, but it still functions through tribalism as a colonized state, you know. And it goes back to Mamdani's argument about where does this notion of tribe come from, and if this country wasn't colonized, then why do they still identify via tribalism, you know? Because, and also why is it that whole thing of having one king, you know, one ruler, one nation, one people, you know, was that part of pre-colonial Africa or not, you know? And if it was, then where's the evidence for that? Because most evidence suggests that that whole nationalist aspect of tribalism is not part of pre-colonial Africa. So if this is a so-called futuristic state, then why does it still function as a colonized one?
In Africa, we realize that, first of all, we realize tribalism doesn't work. It's basically a created concept. It's like the same as borders in Africa. The reason why Africa at some point was the most war-torn region on earth is because there's a lot of anger within that you were like more than white people than us, and therefore you got more developed and left us behind when we could have done this together and whatnot and things like that. And the notion of tribalism is meant to continue that. It's meant to continue that divide. It's meant to, you know, it's meant to regurgitate that system all the time. Like at all times, before you're black, you're close or something, right? Before that, you're something else, which makes it difficult for you to relate to the next black person because you automatically think this is a competition. When it doesn't look like what we would go through in the future.
In terms of fighting for the throne, I found it really progressive that also T'Challa's sister, the younger sister, could also challenge him for the throne if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Women also can be in this imagined pre-colonial state, that also women can challenge for the throne and sit on it if they want to. Yeah.
That's a very good point.
That is a good point. Let's talk about the women representation in the film. And how did you guys take it? Because they're kind of two different viewpoints. On one hand, people are saying, yes, this is absolutely feminism. Like, we love seeing strong black women. And they're also dark-skinned, which is also another thing.
Incredible.
You know?
and
natural hair was also a big one.
And also variety of female strength. You have the Queen Mother, who's a very strong woman. You have the bodyguard. You also have the heroine, played by Lupita, who's not really a typical, heroine because she fights for the state. So I thought there was a lot of variety.
That's an interesting point.
No, it's just like for once, like women, especially African women, weren't seen as like, you know, this Mother Africa-esque kind of.
Although that presence is there with the Queen Mother.
The Queen Mother, yes. Which is, I guess you can say it's valid, but with everyone else it wasn't necessary. Like, okay, you're expected to, like, you know, be a certain way and act a certain way type of thing. I like, especially with Shuri, T'Challa's sister, she was probably one of my favorites, you know, for the simple fact that she was like tech savvy, and the fact that, like, you know, you could see that T'Challa needed her, you know, in order to actually be Black Panther, because without her technological knowledge and whatnot, he wouldn't necessarily be the, you know, the Black Panther that we were able to like see and whatnot. Even though he had the strength of the Black Panther, but like, you know, that wasn't like enough. So she was just that add-on to it. What was her
Okoye.
Okoye. I like the contrast between Okoye and Lupita. Nakia.
Nice Nigerian.
Nakia and Okoye. I just like the contrast. Though they're like two strong women. You had Okoye, who was very. Okay, I can't say militant. Militant sounds a bit too
But I mean, she was a general, so
yeah, she was quite militant. She she was someone that took authority, she was authority.
Even spoke to the king with authority.
Yeah, exactly. Without being questioned, or without having to fall back. Even with the end scene with her and her lover, I forgot his name.
Wakabi, Daniel. What's his name again?
Kaluuya.
Yeah, Daniel Kaluuya.
The fact that she stepped in front of the rhino, and she was just type of thing. She was. I like the fact that she was willing to die for her nation, type of thing.
I love that actually. In terms of tribalism and stuff, she's saying, let's forget about tribalism. Let's focus on Wakanda as a nation.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's something we don't actually see in African countries today.
Yeah.
Like the idea of the nation being first. Despite all of our issues and things like that, the nation comes first. That idea I thought was quite interesting. Yeah.
And then also with Nakia, I like that she was someone that played dirty. So she's completely different from Okoye. And just the fact that even though her and T'Challa had their history and whatnot, she wasn't going to again fall back and become queen and all that just for him. She was also willing to kind of fight for her nation and whatnot, her being a spy, right?
Yeah
she was a spy and whatnot. So in general, I like the different varieties of women, strong African women in the movie. But of course, I'm sure there's issues.
Just add, when we speak about the Queen Mother, I feel like the African mother was honored in the beginning, where her son is defending his right to the throne against the other tribe who came out from under the cave. Because he was about to lose, and then his mother shouted to him, show them who you are. And I think that really pays homage to relationships between black men and their mothers, because we know in Africa mothers are the ones who raise.
There's a say, I'm not sure if I should translate it or should I say it the way it is. It's a French say, but I'll try and
maybe say it and then translate it.
What say that they say, éduquer une femme, c'est éduquer toute une nation. So that translates into, when you educate a woman, you're actually educating the entire empire, right? Black Panther, we could see the strength of the women and the strength of allowing them, giving them room to develop and giving them room to use the intelligence for something. If the women are given the same opportunity, then we can actually be a lot more powerful than being seen as we should be in the kitchen. And if you see Nakia, for example, her whole idea about Wakanda should not be living by themselves. There are a lot of other African nations out there that are struggling. I can stay here to be, hypothetically, be the queen, but that is not what interests me. What interests me is to go and save the lives of others. That was also something very, very important and very powerful coming from a woman, because it's rare that women can make those tough choices. You're actually educating a woman. You're actually preparing your nation for a lot more success.
The scene in South Korea where they're fighting in the casino, and the general actually first she had been complaining about the wig, that it's really uncomfortable and she doesn't like it. Then when the fight scene begins, she throws it away. What do you guys make of that? What does that mean?
That was awesome.
Is it speaking back to whiteness? Is it challenging white notions of beauty?
In a way it does. And in another way, I think for me, I just took it from the perspective of, let's not waste time on things that do not matter.
Like she focused more on what really matters, and that's defending the honor of where I come from.
Particular representation of women in Black Panther shows the power of options. Just having an Africa in the future where black girls have options. There's a Wakanda out there where you get to choose what you want to be. There's no one who dictates it. There's no one who's going to limit it.
And
You
the
have-
men aren't threatened by that.
Yes, and you have
freedom.
you have a society where you are inherently looking out for the best for each other. Like, give this girl options. Give this 17-year-old girl access to the things that she needs in order for her to prosper. The same access that you're giving her brother in order for him to do his thing. The same access that you're giving a spy who's the first scene she's going out to rescue kidnapped girls, which speaks a lot to the contemporary issues in Africa. Where are those girls? You know what I'm saying? The difference is that you have a more progressive Wakanda, and it goes back to what you're saying about how you educate a nation, and that underappreciating or underutilizing or like just not giving women the same opportunities is a self-deprecating cause, because you're instantly crippling half the population. You give these girls options, we'll end up in a way more better place than we are right
I
now.
keep forgetting her name, the one played by Lupita.
And Kia.
Nikia. I think she represents all the things that I believe women are taught to aspire to, like aspire to marriage, aspire to having a rich man, if it's the king, even better, to
settle.
to provide everything for you. And when Dawn speaks about options, in the end she has the option to reject all of that.
Yeah, and she does.
And she
you
does,
know,
and
yeah.
choose what she believes is the future for her and for the nation.
And also it doesn't reinforce that stereotype that married women can't work, because you have the general who's obviously married and who's obviously
I
working.
don't know if they're married though.
No, they didn't.
No, they weren't.
portray it.
Were they not
Her
married?
fiance.
But they were
It seemed like fiance or in a relationship, but I don't know.
They're doing a thing there. What is it?
I love
There's a
that.
live-in thing going on there.
I love when the screen phone thing that they use comes up. She's like, "My love."
Oh, I love that. I love the tech. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are they called? The beat, Kuma beats or something like that. Yeah.
And it's showing us that you can have these relationships and still, function to your fullest ability.
And
There's-
she's doing a more powerful
Yeah,
job
it shouldn't
than
have
him.
How did you guys feel about Daniel Kaluuya's character just turning?
He won the ritual battle. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Killmonger won
This
the
is your best
he's the
friend, and
king.
you're just
No, he's
No,
the
but,
king. Like,
isn't
they,
it T'Challa also promised to bring him back? Who's this Clark?
yeah, close.
and he
Close.
didn't.
Yeah.
And he didn't do that. And someone with a legitimate claim to the throne won. And even if you're my friend, but
Alright,
now you're
guys,
interfering
guys,
with
really?
the health of the state.
What kind of friend are you?
Guys, listen, he's more than a friend now, because beyond our friendship, now we have an objective duty to a million other people. I would rather break your heart than break the hearts of a million other people out there. You're not more important than those people. Our friendship is not as
But
important.
was he the right king for the people, though? If he was oppressing, he immediately imposed the system of oppression.
It shows he's a soldier. Soldiers are not supposed to follow the right thing. They follow
But
orders.
from the perspective of the people supporting him, I mean, like
I
the
think in a
general and her
way-
fiance.
Sometimes when it's in that kind of a case, I mean, like people who already took an oath before they served. No matter what happens, we are going to serve the king, no matter what happens. I mean, in a way, it goes by the oaths that they took before they step into their positions.
Whoever the king is.
Whoever the king is, they have to defend that honor. Like, even though the king made wrong decisions, like the warriors in real life, we're supposed to support the king because the main purpose was to protect the throne.
Also, it sets a bad precedent if you're just going to follow your friends. Well, you know
I
what
mean,
I'm
I
saying?
think like before that, because this is also Marvel's issue. Like before actually sitting down and talking about things, we fight. You know, it's a very masculine kind of viewpoint. It's
But they
just
did
so-
talk about it and they said no. And Killmonger was like, you know what, you said no. Now let's fight. You know what I'm saying? Because he came and he was like, I want to be king now.
But is that talking or demanding?
That's talking.
And
that's talking men
why
style.
Bukamanga, how do you pronounce it?
Killmonger.
Killmonger demanded the position. It was because back then the king killed his father. So it's sort of like his anger took over him and he's like, okay, because they killed my father and they rejected me and abandoned me, now I'm going to go back there and try to like cause confusion or do whatever I have to do in that kingdom. Because it was anger.
Do you guys think that African American soldiers perhaps do that in Africa? You know, or do they just get that story out of nowhere?
So these are things that happen.
That's a great
That's
question.
very good
It's a great
point,
question. Yeah.
as well. Though to that point, I'm not sure.
The kind of central idea, one of the central ideas of the movie is definitely about African American identity versus African identity. You know, are African Americans Africans? If Americans were repatriated into the African continent, would they belong, or would there be this resistance? You know, I don't know, how did you guys feel about Killmonger being killed in the end? Like, Killmonger dies.
He chose to die.
Wow.
He chose to die. He could have been saved.
Yeah, that speech.
Yeah.
The speech. Oh my God.
It was so like, gave me goosebumps. I was like, yeah.
Going back to being African, I think it's a lived experience, guys. You're not African because you're black. To be completely honest, you're never African because you're black, because it's a lived experience. You have to experience Africa. It's an everyday thing. You have to wake up here. You have to face these African problems. You have
So
to
are you saying that? Yeah, sorry.
No, so then like kids that are born from migrants in other countries, African migrants in the UK, then they're not Africans.
The
Like
thing is,
diasporic
Diasporic
Africans.
bodies are not Africans.
They don't
and-
identify themselves as African. You need
But
So,
to-
I mean, some
giving them
do,
the
though.
option to-
Wow.
Are we
Yeah,
giving them the option to identify as African?
I think we can give them that option. But
Is it
also
our
depends.
choice though for them to? Is it up to us for them to be African or not?
like,
should be up
then
No, it should be
wait.
up to them, but in most instances, they kind of don't identify themselves as African
I mean,
because
someone like I'm Nigerian American or I'm.
But that's the thing,
British.
though. You can have
Because
two
in a way they're
identities.
othering themselves. They're like they're separating themselves from us.
yeah.
When they go ahead and they add that.
But the difference is there, though,
African-
because
that American.
the difference is there because you can hold two identities at the same time.
Yeah, multiple. Yeah.
Yeah, you can hold multiple identities at the same time, but that doesn't make you more African than me, or
Less.
I don't know. Less is a thing. Less is
But
definitely
guys,
a thing.
it goes back to identity. The thing is, your identity, it depends on how you've been brought up as well. Okay? So if you've been brought up in a certain way, even if I'm African, I was born in Africa today, and I've been brought up to Thailand to live, I'm more gonna be accustomed to those rules than I would be if I have to be back. It goes back to that, and it's up to an individual now at a later stage in your life to decide which identity do you want to carry. You kind of say I think it's more of a personal decision that you should decide which identity is more suitable for you.
I mean, I think
identities, though. Do we?
I think we perform
Identity.
we perform identity definitely because people take on different masks in different
Yes.
situations.
That's the influence of where your environment that it
Yes.
plays a bigger role.
It plays a big
you can
role.
change,
Definitely, yeah.
You can change in different situations, but that is like a 20% of your
But then I feel like
day-to-day
every
life.
time why do we always need to compromise our identities wherever we go?
I think
And that's another good
It is-
point. Yeah.
Like sometimes it just baffles me sometimes that people when they go to America they just have to change. They're like, oh fuck, I'm gonna reject. I'm gonna reject this part of my life and start picking up other sides of
Yeah.
this world. Like, why do we constantly do that? Why do we deny ourselves?
I don't know. The problem, particularly with America, is Black Americans laugh at us.
But
Black
not
Americans
all,
have created and perpetuated what's the booty scratcher motif.
Oh yeah, okay.
They think that's a joke. They laugh at that. The reason why they laugh at Michael Blackson is not because Michael Blackson might be funny at times or sometimes, but they laugh at the accent. They think if they come to Africa, they're gonna meet a Michael Blackson. That's why they put on that voice. That's why they do those things. So when you go to America as a African, being brought up in Africa, and knowing these things, and knowing that coming to America was a humongous parody on black people coming, and knowing those things, and knowing that they're going to laugh at you, and knowing you're going to feel out of place, those things will change you because it makes sense for me to want to be accepted. That's a natural human
Sense
need.
of belonging.
Yeah, and going there and seeing other black people, you will want to also be associated with those black people. You don't want to be because they're better blacks than us, you know what I'm saying? Better blacks in quotes. You know what I'm saying?
Can I
But
speak back, please, to what Don you said in before about being African as a lived experience? I'm not sure if a lived experience in Africa. I'm not sure if I agree 100%.